ready to like really decode how the news uses language.
Ooh, I like that, decoding the news.
Yeah, it's like a secret code sometimes, right? We're going to take a deep dive
Yeah.
into 100 common English phrases you see all the time in the news.
hmm
You know, the kind that makes you sound like you really know what's going on,
Yeah.
but you know more than that.
Yeah.
They help you understand, all those little subtle ways they
Yeah.
present information.
Yeah. And these phrases, they often carry a lot of cultural and historical weight.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Sometimes even a touch of drama.
A little bit of drama, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So we're not just going to, list them off.
No.
We're going to explore the most fascinating ones,
Right.
unpack their meanings, and see how they're used in the real world.
And we've organized them in a way that might surprise you.
But-
We're looking at how these phrases make us feel.
Oh, interesting.
Starting with the ones that really grab our attention.
Okay.
Get our hearts racing.
Okay, I'm feeling the adrenaline already. Let's talk about phrases that invoke a sense of urgency and immediacy.
Yeah, like that feeling of like, oh my gosh, what's happening?
Right, right.
So the first one that comes to mind is breaking news.
Oh, yeah.
It's become a staple of the 24/7 news cycle.
It seems like everything is breaking news these days.
It does, doesn't it?
Do you think it's lost a little bit of its impact?
It's a good question. I think before the internet and social media, breaking news was really reserved for truly like monumental events.
Right.
But now with this constant influx of information, I think the threshold for what actually constitutes breaking news has definitely shifted.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's almost like a boy who cried wolf situation.
Yeah.
But what about when the spotlight is shining brightly on a specific person or event?
In the spotlight.
Yeah,
That is a powerful phrase.
it is.
It conjures up those images of stage lights and just intense scrutiny.
For sure.
And it's often used to describe someone who's receiving a lot of public attention.
Right.
Which can be for positive reasons, like a groundbreaking achievement,
Mhm.
or for negative reasons, like a scandal.
Right, like when that athlete broke the world record,
Yeah,
they were definitely in the spotlight.
totally.
But then on the flip side, when that celebrity had their social media meltdown, the spotlight felt more like a scorching interrogation lamp.
Oof. Yeah, it can be harsh.
Yeah,
That's a perfect example of how the same phrase can take on different connotations depending on the context.
for sure.
The spotlight can be both a source of admiration and a tool for public accountability.
Yeah, very interesting. And speaking of things that grab our attention, what about going viral?
Ooh, going viral.
It seems like that phrase has taken on a life of its own.
It has. And it's so fascinating how a phrase rooted in biology, the rapid spread of a virus,
Right.
has become such a defining term for like our digital age.
Totally.
It speaks volumes about how quickly information, whether true or false,
Yeah.
can spread online.
Oh, I totally agree. I still remember when that video of the dancing cat went viral.
Oh, yeah.
It was everywhere.
It was.
But it makes you think about the downsides too, right?
Definitely.
Like how misinformation can spread like wildfire.
Absolutely. It highlights a crucial point.
Yeah.
Going viral isn't inherently good or bad. It's the content that matters.
Oh, that's a good point.
And it's a good reminder to be critical consumers of information, especially online.
That's a really good point. Okay, let's shift gears a bit and talk about a phrase that evokes a sense of history and change.
Okay.
A turning point.
Ooh, a turning point.
Yeah, it feels weighty,
Yeah.
like we're witnessing a shift in the narrative.
Yeah, a turning point suggests that things will never be the same again. It marks a clear before and after in the timeline of events.
Right.
And you're right, it's often used to shape historical narratives
Mm.
and influence public perception.
Can you give us an example of a recent turning point?
Well, something that comes to mind is the global pandemic. That was widely considered a turning point
Yeah.
in how we view public health and even the role of government.
Wow. I hadn't thought about it that way, but it makes sense. Okay, now let's move into a realm that's a bit more strategic.
Okay.
How about phrases related to politics and power?
Ooh, politics and power. This is where language becomes a tool used to persuade, influence, and sometimes even manipulate.
Yeah.
And one phrase that's often at the heart of political debates is to be in power.
To be in power, it's not just about holding a position of authority, right? It's about the ability to influence decisions and control resources.
Exactly. And it's a constant struggle to
Yeah.
maintain that power, to consolidate it, and to wield it effectively.
Right.
And it raises all those questions about accountability, transparency,
Yeah.
and even the potential for abuse.
Right. It's not always about what's best for the people. Okay, how about a political rally?
Oh, a political rally.
Those could be quite a spectacle.
They can. They
Yes.
can be incredibly powerful displays of solidarity. Think about some of those historic rallies that have sparked social movements and brought about significant change.
But they can also be used to stoke emotions and
Mm.
potentially incite division, right?
You're absolutely right. It's important to look beyond that surface spectacle and
Mhm.
examine those underlying messages and motivations.
Yeah.
A rally might look like unity on the surface,
Mhm.
but it's worth asking, unity for whom and at what cost?
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about a phrase that no politician wants to hear. A major setback.
Oof. Yeah.
Ouch.
This one is all about disappointment and obstacles. It's used to describe a significant defeat
Mm-hmm.
that hinders progress towards a goal.
And it can apply to all sorts of situations.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
A political campaign, a business venture,
Yeah.
even personal goals.
It's that universal feeling of hitting a wall.
Right?
And the way someone responds to a major setback often reveals a lot about their resilience and strategic thinking.
Right.
Do they give up? Or do they regroup and adapt?
Interesting. So setbacks can actually reveal a lot about a person or a group.
Yeah.
Okay, last one in this category, and it's a powerful one. To break the silence.
To break the silence. This phrase often signifies courage and defiance. It's about speaking out against injustice, exposing a hidden truth,
Right.
or challenging a dominant narrative, even when it's risky.
Right. It suggests that there was a period of suppression or maybe even fear before someone finally decided to speak up.
Yeah, and that act of breaking the silence can be incredibly inspiring.
Yeah.
It can empower others to find their own voice and demand change.
Wow, we've covered some heavy-hitting phrases in this first section. What stands out to you so far?
I'm really struck by how these phrases, like even just this first batch, reveal our anxieties, our aspirations, and our really complex relationship with power and information.
I totally agree. And we've only just scratched the surface.
I know. All right, so, we've talked about how these phrases kind of, make us feel, but, let's explore another set of phrases.
Okay.
This time we'll focus on the ones that kind of tap into, our sense of responsibility
Yeah.
and, maybe even our desire to make the world a better place.
Okay, I'm ready to get a little more hopeful.
Right.
What kind of phrases are we talking about?
Well, one that comes to mind is, to raise awareness.
Oh, yeah?
It's become such a common call to action,
Yeah.
especially in the age of social media.
Yeah, it seems like every day there's a new hashtag or viral campaign aimed at raising awareness about some issue.
It's true, but, it's important to remember that raising awareness is really just the first step.
Right.
It's about shining a light on those issues that might otherwise be overlooked,
Right.
but it's not enough on its own.
Right. Awareness without action doesn't really accomplish much.
Exactly.
It's like saying, hey, look at this problem, but not offering any solutions or taking any steps to address it.
Exactly. So when you see this phrase, ask yourself, what's the next step? What are those concrete actions that are being proposed
Yeah.
or taken to address the issue?
That's a good point. Okay, let's talk about a phrase that often goes hand in hand with raising awareness. To take a stand.
Yes.
It feels very powerful.
Yeah.
Like drawing a line in the sand.
It is. To take a stand suggests a firm commitment to a principle or a cause.
Right.
It's about refusing to be silent or complicit
Yeah.
in the face of injustice.
And it's not always easy. Right. Taking a stand can come with risks,
Oh, definitely.
like facing criticism
Yeah.
or even putting yourself in danger.
Absolutely. Think about historical figures who took a stand against oppression or discrimination.
Right.
I mean, they often faced immense challenges and personal sacrifices.
Right. But their actions inspired others to join the movement and fight for change. Right.
Exactly. So taking a stand can be both a personal act of courage and a catalyst for collective action.
Yeah, that's powerful.
Yeah.
Okay, let's dive into a phrase that often signals a heated debate, a contentious issue.
Oh, a contentious issue.
It's like a warning sign that things are about to get intense.
It is.
Yeah.
A contentious issue is a polite way of saying this is a subject that people have strong opinions about and things can get heated.
Right.
It signals that there are multiple perspectives, conflicting values, and no easy solutions.
And in today's world, it seems like almost everything is a contentious issue, right?
Yeah, it feels like it.
From politics to social issues to even seemingly trivial things like what kind of coffee is the best.
You're not wrong. But I think, that speaks to the importance of civil discourse
Yeah.
and really, the ability to engage with perspectives that differ from our own.
Yeah.
How do we navigate these contentious issues without resorting to shouting matches or personal attacks?
That's the million-dollar question. Maybe it starts with listening to understand rather than listening to respond.
I think that's a great place to start. Okay, let's zoom out a bit and talk about phrases related to global affairs and international relations.
So,
What comes to mind when you hear the phrase, a state of emergency?
well, it definitely evokes a sense of urgency and crisis.
Right.
Like something serious is happening
Yeah,
that requires immediate action.
exactly. And it's typically declared in response to a natural disaster, a public health crisis,
Yeah.
or even a security threat.
Okay.
And it signals that normal rules and procedures are suspended.
Right. It's like saying, we're at uncharted territory here, and we need to take extraordinary measures.
But it's also a phrase that should be used judiciously, right?
Yeah.
Because declaring a state of emergency grants governments special powers.
Right.
And there's always that potential for abuse or overreach.
That's a good point.
Mm.
It's a reminder that even in times of crisis, checks and balances are essential.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about a phrase that highlights our interconnectedness. A global issue.
A global issue. This refers to challenges that transcend national borders
Right.
and require international cooperation to address. Think about things like climate change, pandemics, and cybersecurity threats. They don't respect borders.
Right? These are big, complex problems that no single country can solve on its own.
Exactly. Global issues often involve such a complex web of actors, interests, and solutions.
Yeah.
They require a shift in perspective from us versus them to we're all in this together.
Right. It feels like these global issues are becoming more and more pressing these days, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. And as our world becomes increasingly interconnected, the need for global cooperation becomes even more vital.
Okay, let's end this section on a somewhat hopeful note. What about the phrase, to reach an agreement?
To reach an agreement.
Yeah.
This phrase suggests a process of negotiation, compromise, and finding common ground.
Okay.
It's about bridging differences and working together to
Right.
achieve a shared goal.
It sounds lovely in theory, but in reality,
Mhm.
reaching an agreement, especially on a global scale,
Yeah.
can be incredibly difficult.
Oh, absolutely. It often requires patience, diplomacy, and a willingness to put aside those individual interests for the sake of the collective good.
Yeah.
But when it happens, it can be such a powerful testament to human collaboration.
It's like that saying, where there's a will, there's a way.
Exactly.
Okay, we've explored phrases that evoke urgency, responsibility, and even a glimmer of hope. What are your thoughts as we wrap up this section?
I'm struck by how these phrases really highlight the challenges and opportunities of our time.
Yeah.
We're facing these complex issues that require global cooperation, critical thinking,
Yeah.
and a willingness to take action.
Okay, we are back for our final section of this deep dive.
Final stretch.
100 common English phrases used in the news and media.
Yeah,
I feel like we've been all over the place.
we have.
We've explored phrases that grab our attention, make us feel responsible, and even those that give us a little bit of hope.
Right.
What's left?
Well, we've talked about how these phrases make us feel,
Right.
but, let's look at how they shape how we see the world around us.
How we understand progress and change.
Okay, that sounds fascinating. Let's dive in.
So one phrase that comes to mind right away is to make progress.
To make progress. Okay?
It embodies that human desire to move forward,
Right.
to overcome challenges,
Yeah.
to strive for something better.
Yeah, it's like that feeling of taking 2 steps forward, 1 step back,
Yeah.
but ultimately like inching closer to a goal.
Exactly. And it can apply to so many different areas of life.
Right.
Personal growth, scientific discoveries, social advancements.
Yeah.
It's about those small, persistent efforts that accumulate over time
Yeah.
and lead to meaningful change.
Yeah. It's a reminder that progress isn't always about those like grand achievements.
No.
Or like overnight transformations.
Right.
Sometimes it's about those small wins that keep us moving in the right direction.
Absolutely. And I think that's a really important point.
Yeah.
Because, we often get discouraged when we don't see those huge leaps forward.
Right.
But, those incremental steps,
They're really what drive lasting change.
for sure. Okay. How about the phrase, To push for change.
To push for change.
Yeah, it seems to suggest a more active and even disruptive approach.
Yeah, it's not about going with the flow. It's about challenging the status quo,
Right.
advocating for something better.
Right.
It often requires courage, persistence, and that belief that things can be different.
Mm-hmm.
Think about, the activists and reformers throughout history who
Right.
pushed for change, even when it was unpopular or dangerous to do so.
Yeah, they face resistance, setbacks, even threats to their safety.
Yeah,
But their determination ultimately paved the way for progress.
exactly. And their actions remind us that change rarely happens without effort,
Right.
without people willing to push for a better future.
Now, remember that phrase we talked about earlier, a turning point?
Yes,
It feels like we've come full circle.
we have. But this time, let's consider it in kind of like a broader context.
Mhm.
So, in this sense, a turning point refers to those moments in history that mark a significant shift in our collective understanding of the world,
Right.
our values, our aspirations.
So it's not just about a specific event, it's about the ripple effects,
Yeah.
the lasting impact that event has on society, culture, even on the course of history.
Exactly. It would be a scientific discovery that changes how we understand the universe,
Mm-hmm.
a social movement that challenges our deeply held beliefs,
Yeah.
or a global event that forces us to reevaluate our priorities.
Right.
These turning points, they shape the narrative of human progress.
Wow, what a journey this has been.
I know, right?
We've explored 100 common English phrases used in the news
Yes.
and in media. And honestly, I feel like I have a whole new perspective on how language shapes our understanding of the world.
Yeah, me too. These seemingly simple phrases, they carry so much weight, so much history, and
Yeah.
so much potential to influence how we think, feel, and act.
So the next time you're reading a headline, watching the news, or just having a conversation about current events,
Yeah.
pay attention to the phrases being used.
Ask yourself, what are they really saying?
Mm.
What assumptions are they based on? And
Right.
how are they shaping your perception of events?
We've only scratched the surface here.
Oh, yeah,
There are countless other phrases out there, each with its own story to tell.
for sure.
But hopefully, this deep dive has given you a new appreciation for the power of language
Mm-hmm.
and a sharper eye for decoding the news and the world around you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks for joining us on this linguistic adventure.
Yes, thank you.
Until next time, keep those ears pricked and those minds curious.